Produced and directed by Ray Lindstrom. Well, we don't know what it is, we don't know what the movie is, but it was produced by him. Oh, that's me. I'm Ray Lindstrom, and there is my beautiful home. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's not where I live. That's the White House of the United States of America, because now I'm in Washington, D.C., and this is 1957. And myself and my good friend Bob Frasier and his mother were visiting Washington, D.C. They took me on a trip, and there's Bob right there coming out from behind a pillar in some fine, large building, and that's Mrs. Frasier. She was a lovely woman, and the three of us visited Washington, D.C. We stayed at the fabulous Mayflower Hotel there, as a matter of fact, and I believe this building is the Pan American Union Building. Not too many people visit that. Anyway, this is the summer of 1957, and this is an odd little movie film. This is an adventure in my home movies. This is one of a series of my family home movies. This was done when I was 15 years old. This is the summer of 1957. And we actually lived in Tucson, Arizona at this time, and Bob Frasier lived in Palatine, Illinois, but he invited us to go on a trip with him because I knew Bob. Bob and I were friends in Palatine. We went to grade school together through 8th grade, and then we were in high school together in freshman and junior year until we actually moved out from Palatine to Tucson in 1956. Anyway, I got a nice movie camera. This was a Keystone Capri movie camera, and you couldn't do much with it. It had no zoom on it, and of course you had to set the exposure, the light exposure ratings on it, so sometimes they're a little bit dark, and sometimes they're a little bit light. But actually, this film is very good. This is Kodachrome film. Here's Mount Vernon. We went all over Washington, D.C., but we're going to see a little bit of Washington here, and then all of a sudden we're going to zoom back to Tucson, and then we're going to go back to Washington again. This home movie was not very well put together. Oh, there's Ray and Bob, and they're having a little disagreement about what to see next. There we go. I'm the fellow in the red shirt. Bob's in the blue shirt, and we're at Mount Vernon, 1957. Nice people to take us there. Ooh, something bad happens here. I think that's Ford's Theater, if I'm not mistaken, in Washington. And of course, that's where Lincoln died in 1865, right there. He was shot. There's the Washington Monument. Actually, Bob and I, we climbed to the top of the monument. You could do that. They just had stairs inside. Went inside there and did that. Here's the Smithsonian Institute. Great place filled with all kinds of fabulous artifacts. And I think we may be seeing one of those artifacts shortly, but it was very hard to see things indoors because the speed of the film was so slow in those days that anything that was a little bit dark you couldn't see, like today's cameras and telephones that you take pictures with. The quality is so excellent. Gee whiz, Of course, in these days, Eastman Kodak had a corner on all the film and marketing. And could you imagine, oh, wait a minute, now we're going to go back. Oh, we're not in Washington anymore. Now we're going to go back in time about 3 months when Bob Frasier came out to Tucson to visit me. How do you like that? So we're going to go back in time. This is a flashback here. There's Bob getting off the plane. Look at how nicely everybody was dressed. They were all fancied up. Bob's got his sport coat on, and here he is. We're staying in some ranch. I don't know. My folks put us up somewhere where they had a pool, and it was kind of a lot of fun and everything. And there's me jumping off the diving board. I'm sure that I handed Bob the camera and said, "Here, take some photos of me. I'm never in these pictures because I'm always the guy taking the pictures." Yes. Oh, this was great. See, I was in high school. I was about 6'2" and weighed 155 pounds. I remember my mother taking me to the doctor saying, "Oh, he's so skinny. What do I do?" And the doctor said, "Feed him lots of milkshakes." That was the solution in those days. Bob and I, we loved to play ping pong, and here we are right now. This is, we're chasing after the ball. Hurry up, get that ball, would you please? Please, the film is running. We're running out of film. Could you please play? We had very limited action here as to what we could really do. But anyway, we're playing ping pong and having a good time, and we met a lot of other guys there who were staying Now what's going to happen here? I have a feeling that something untoward is about to happen. Do you suppose that maybe I'm going to be pushed in here? I'm going to, oh, yeah, okay. Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah, that's right. And then I pull Bob in. Now one of us has to go out, hurry up, and go to the camera to turn it off because, see, it's actually operating right now. Hurry up, Bob, get over there. Whew, must have stopped. Okay, more pictures of teenagers in the swimming pool. Oh, now we're going to go horseback riding up at Bear Canyon. This is Tucson, Arizona, fine place, southern Arizona. And look at that nice horse right there. Well, we're through riding the horse, and we're back in the swimming pool again. Yes, we knew how to really take a lot of shots that really will mean a lot to people over the years. Now, see, this is how we set this up, and all these kids, one after another, were out there, and you see what the culture was like in 1957 at a resort in Tucson, Arizona. Look at there. I think this is Bear Canyon, right? This is east, kind of northeast of Tucson. And we did a lot of climbing up and around the rocks and everything. Oh, that was a lot of fun. I always loved to do a lot of climbing. And of course, I'm sure you're going to be seeing that pretty soon, because if you see my entire series of home movies, you will see a lot of pictures and a lot of times that we would go and visit the Grand Canyon. And of course, there you go down to begin with, and then you go up, as opposed to here where you went up and then you went down. How about that? And that's the way Tucson looked back then. And even though in 1957, there were probably somewhere between, I would say maybe 150,000 people there. Why, it's still out here in the desert. Still look pretty sparse. Oh my gosh, look, we're such religious boys, we decided to go to church. Well, actually, this is not the real church. This is the church at Old Tucson, which has been parts of all kinds of movies over the years. There's my dad, he's down here. And there's Bob, I think he's going to go in there and try to rob the depot. I'm not sure he's up to no good of some kind. A lot of movies were made at Old Tucson. I remember I went out and saw John Wayne, Dean Martin, Ricky Nelson, Ward Bond, Walter Brennan. What a cast, as they did Rio Bravo here when I was a junior in high school. And I got to meet John Wayne one day down at the Santa Rita Hotel, and he was the nicest guy in the world. Went down there, and I had heard he was there, and so I wanted to do an interview. I was going to Catalina High School at the time, and we had a project. We had to interview somebody famous. There's my dad and Bob in the yoke. There's no yoke here, folks. Now we're going to go out. Oh, I believe this is out at the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, a very famous desert museum out here, featuring all kinds of wildlife. Anyway, I went to see, javelina. Those are ugly little things, aren't they? Anyway, went to see John Wayne, went down to the Santa Rita Hotel. I walked right into the Santa Rita Hotel, and who should I run into but Ward Bond. And I was there with a friend of mine, Dorothy McCutcheon, and she said, the first thing you saw Ward Bond, you said, "Hey, Ward, have you seen the Duke?" And Ward says, "Yeah, he's in the bar. You want me to go get him for you?" And I said, "Yeah, would you?" And Ward Bond went into the Santa Rita Hotel bar, and about 5 minutes later, who should come out but John Wayne, the Duke himself. And he said, "Oh, by the way, here we are in Nogales right now, walking down the street with some friends of ours we met at the hotel. So we're in Mexico." Anyway, so John Wayne comes out of the bar, and he says, "Do you kids want to talk to me?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm from the newspaper, and I wanted to interview you for our school newspaper." And he said, "Well," he says, "I know you're too young to come into the bar, but you sit right here in the lobby, and you can I'll answer all your questions. Ask me as many questions as you like." So I sat there, and Dorothy and I sat there, and we asked him all the questions. People gathered around us, and for about 1 hour, this guy was terrific, and he answered all the questions. Well, it looks like this is the end of Bob Frasier's visit to Tucson. We're at the airport right now. Look he's got his movie camera, too. Looks like that's that Kodak Brownie movie camera. He's going to get on board again, all dressed up. Look at that. People, didn't they dress nicely in those days? Look at these days, you're lucky if you get on board a plane and you're not sitting next to a guy in a bathing suit, you know. But in those days, everybody's all dressed up. TWA, Trans World Airlines. And they merged with American a few years ago. But anyway, Bob's getting on the plane. I think that's one of those big old Constellations. And he's going to take off here pretty soon. And then somehow I have a feeling we're going to go back to Washington, D.C. because we didn't see enough of Washington yet. So I think we've got to see. I think we've got to see a little bit more of that. Anyway, we had the interview with John Wayne, and he was just a terrific guy. And John said, "Come on out tomorrow." He says, "Why don't you come on out and watch us do a few scenes for Rio Bravo?" And so the next day, Dorothy didn't want to cut class, but a buddy of mine, Gary Pallant, and I both went out there. And there's hardly any security out there. You just drive on the lot, and the guy in the booth would say, "What are you here for?" And we said, "There's Mom and Dad, by the way." And we just said, "Oh, John Wayne invited us to come out to watch him do some movies today." And the guy says, "Yeah, go ahead." So we just went out there and watched it for a while. And I never thought I'd say that the movies were kind of boring. It's one of those deals where you went out there and you thought, "Oh boy, there's going to be a lot of action." Oop! Hey, guess what? Speaking of action, here we are back in Washington, D.C. again. Now, what is that? Is that the Supreme Court? I'm not exactly sure about that, but it's a big building in Washington with pillars. So now we're fast forwarding again for another period of time, back to the summer of 1957, and you saw at the beginning of this, now we're back to it again. There's the Capitol, of course. Anyway, so we went out we're out at the movies, and we watched them for a while, and they kept on doing one scene after another, and we got kind of tired of that, so we left. But anyway, that was it. We went to see that they were making Rio Bravo, and that was in 1958, so that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Now, this is these are pictures that I took. Could this have been from the Washington Monument? Maybe it was, or was it from the plane flying over Washington? This must be from Washington Monument. Remember, I mentioned earlier that Bob and we climbed up to the top of the Washington Monument in the stairs there. I mean, there was no big deal. There was just stairs. You just walked in and climbed up the stairs, and that's right. That is the Washington Monument we're in. And down there you can see there's the Jefferson Memorial. And on the other side there's the Capitol, and before that you saw the Lincoln Memorial. So that was a great view of Washington, D.C., and we sure had a lot of fun. And again, thanks to the Frasiers for inviting me on that trip. This was the first time I'd ever taken an airplane. We actually drove to Washington, but on the way back, we got to fly to meet Bob's dad in Pittsburgh. And so the first flight I ever had in my life was when I was 15, and I flew from Washington, D.C. to Pittsburgh. And I think it was on Capital Airlines. We may see that airplane here. Anyway, this was our trip. And I think this is the Mayflower Hotel. And one of the interesting things about the Mayflower Hotel I remember, and I'm sure that Bob remembers this too, was the fact that Jerry Lewis was in the elevator with us one time. We were going up to our room, and who should get in the elevator but Jerry Lewis, who the entire time was clapping his hands and whistling. And Bob and we just kind of looked at each other. And, Jerry Lewis, he was a ham and just having lots of fun. That's all. He got off at his floor. And I could say that Jerry Lewis was probably the first person of any note, famous person, that I'd ever spent any time with. Well, it was in an elevator, wasn't it? Oh, now here we are at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And, of course, they have their special ritual that they go through there. And, of course, what could be better than taking movies of the special performance, or whatever you want to call it, of the guards at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Arlington Cemetery. This was it, 1957, Washington, D.C. Gee, I actually stopped talking for a few seconds, which is really amazing. This is one of a series of home movies, that I've decided to digitize and narrate. And I have done these home movies. I'm doing these home movies. They're from a period of time from 1955 to 1980. So from 55 to 1961, we have some home movies. But then in 1961, I was working at a television station, and I was a disc jockey and an on-camera announcer. And so I traded my movie camera to one of the guys there. I traded my movie camera for a tape recorder, which was, he had a bunch of kids and he wanted to take home movies, and I wanted to perfect my voice and work on diction and all that sort of thing, and take and get some and get some sound audio of my radio program that I had, and so it was a great switch. So, oh, by the way, this now we're inside the Smithsonian Institute, and of course, here again, I'm saying that it was really tough to get decent pictures inside because it was so dark in there. Now, it may have seemed light to us, but not for film. Film came off and made it real dark. Now I think I'm back. I don't know. This was great editing. I don't think there was any editing in this, but now I'm back at the top of the Washington Monument. So that was great stuff. And you look down there and you see the traffic down below. Anyway, I was saying that. So anyway, I traded my movie camera. So there are no movies from 1961 to 1964. And then when I got married to Diane in 1964, a friend of mine, Charlie Finster, gave me a movie camera as a wedding present. So I started taking movies again. But there is a little break in the action of like about 4 minutes that I actually quit. Not 4 minutes, of about. I wish it was only 4 minutes, of about, well, it was from 61 to 64, about three and a half years that I didn't take any movies. And but then you'll see right after Diane and I got married that we have some movies of our first apartment, and then the kids being born. I have a boy and a girl. I have a boy, Barry, who was born in 1966. And a daughter, Karen, who was born in 1968. So you'll see those. Now here we are back in Washington, D.C. again. And, of course, at the Lincoln Memorial, looking outside the Lincoln Memorial. You know, the funny thing is here we have home movies, and I'm going to post these eventually on YouTube. But, in the old days, if somebody suggested, if you had a neighbor or something who would say, hey, come on over on Friday night, we're going to see the movies of our Indiana vacation, you would figure out any way you could to avoid going to their house. You would come up with any excuse possible to not go and watch those because they were so boring. And here I am showing these movies. There's the special statue of Iwo Jima. Oh, that's right. I did say earlier that I was getting. This is the first time Capital Airlines. There I am, my first ride, and there's the first movies I took from the out the window of the airplane. Never been on there before. This is the absolute first time. Wow. Yep, it's exciting. Exciting being on the airplane. And thanks to the Frasiers for allowing me to do that. I'm not exactly sure what comes up after this, except here's some shots of Bob. Maybe we go back to Tucson again. I'm not exactly sure. This is not your. Oh yes, here we are. Yes. Oh my gosh. I think we're in Illinois. Maybe up at Lake Wakanda or somewhere. This is my dad, and I think it might have been some summer. Maybe this is 56 when I was back there. Oh yeah, this is okay. We went to a lake in 57. This is 1957. Went to some lake around Chicago there, and we're all there and having a good time. And this is the backyard of where we lived at 3044 North Newcastle in Chicago. My great aunt had passed away. She had lived here for a long time. And, Mom's going to get me with the hose here. This is such great excitement and adventure. Oh, my gosh. Don't do that, Mom. That's bad. Now I'm going to squirt her. Oh, no. In 1957, Catalina High School opened in Tucson, the beginning of 1957. And here it is. This is a long pan shot of the school. And it was considered so fancy that the newspapers wrote about it and said it was Disneyland. It's just like Disneyland. Look at a long, big, beautiful, modern building that had just opened. Catalina High School, Tucson, Arizona, 1957. Now we're back somewhere with where could we be here? Oh, I know what this is. This is Ray Lindstrom and Buddy Domek in Buddy's backyard. And this is the famous hammock scene. Now, this is me. I'm coming out of the door, and I'm going to sit in the hammock. Oh, wait a minute. I can't sit there. There's a dog there. Okay, buddy, get out of there. Come on now. This is a hammock for humans. Didn't you know that? Okay, get out of here. Okay, now we're going to get on here. There's my friend Buddy Domek in Palatine, Illinois, and he's coming out of the door. Now, we're both 15 years old, so you never know what kind of excitement you're going to get here with this film. And we're in the backyard, and now he's going to sit down. Wait a minute, there's the dog there again. Dog certainly is taking advantage of the fine hospitality of the Domek residents. Oops, there it goes. Upside down. Okay, well, we're going to get back in the hammock here and have some fun. We're going to just relax, take it easy, maybe read a book, get something to drink. Whoops. Boy, those hammocks are kind of tricky, aren't they? Wow. Well, what are we going to do now? Oh, my gosh. Oh, don't tell me. Sat on the head. Ah, get rid of that thing. Okay. Okay, let's go back, relax, take... Yep, now I'm all wet. Okay. That's my friend, Buddy Domek, Palatine, Illinois. Okay, well, here we go. Back in the hammock again. We're not going to give up on that hammock. Oh, and here I come, and it looks like I've just let the camera go, and we're just going to let it go as far as it'll go. And I think that, oh, my back, oh, my gosh, how could you do that to me? Oh, geez, I may be only 15 years old, but you've wrecked me forever. Now we're going to fight over the hammock. Oh, my gosh, get out of here. Oops, somebody won. Who was that that won? Well, I guess Buddy won, but just wait a minute here. I've got some plan for him. Whoops. Gee, I bet you couldn't figure out that was coming, huh? What a surprise. What a surprise. That hammock will never be the same again, boy. When Buddy's dad gets home that night, I tell you. Oh, now here comes the dog. The dog's going to get involved. Okay, I guess what we're going to do now, there's only one thing to do. We're going to end up right there on the grass with the dog. And there you go. And they lived happily ever after. And there's Mrs. Domek out in the backyard saying, please don't take movies of me. And there's the dog. Yes, that German Shepherd. Now we're back with Mom and Dad in Tucson, Arizona. And I think Dad's leaving us now. He's going back to Chicago. Ah, poor Dad. We're going to miss him now. Tucson, Arizona. From Palatine, Illinois to Tucson, Arizona. You never know what's going to come up here. There's Dad. Look, he's all dressed up because that's the way people used to dress when they went out there in an airplane. There we go, and there's that must be, you know what that's from? I bet you any money that picture right there is from a mountain. Oh, now we're going to play some golf here. Look at this. Isn't this nice? Me and my mom playing golf. Boy, look at that form. Isn't that great? I was always a terrible golfer, just absolutely terrible. Mom, yeah, she was okay too. Yeah. That was a little golf course. It was not too far from Speedway and well, actually it was close to Grant and Tanca Verde Road, believe it or not. Yeah, amazing, isn't it? Sure enough, there it was. Oh, now we're going back to Chicago, Illinois. Ray Lindstrom, Tom Klister, and Jim Frenay. There's Tom driving my old '53 Ford, and there's Jim Frenay. And we are headed for Chicago to visit my girlfriend. This was in 1957. We told our parents we were going camping. We're on Route 66. And look where we are. We're in Vaughn, New Mexico. Look at that beautiful '53 Ford. I'm telling you, wow, this is absolutely amazing. So we're stuck there, and we're having a good time. And we had gone back, and we saw my girlfriend, and now we're going back to Tucson. There they are, the two guys. I wish they would have taken a movie of me so I could prove I was there. And there on the back window, it says, listening to KTKT, the greatest radio station in town. We're having some fun with some snowballs. This is in Vaughn, New Mexico. And this is in 1957. This was right before New Year's, right between Christmas and New Year's in 1957. Wow. And when the weather got better in Tucson, Arizona, there we are, driving down the road in the red and black Ford.